6 inmates fled the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Center. Sudden collapse in the issuance of passports. Cardinal alleges that the government is engaging in repressive actions. United States midterm election is today. Captain and the coaches of the Sri Lanka team summoned to inquire into the incident related to Dhanushka. And we move on to those and other stories in detail. And in your top local story tonight, President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasizes that the developing countries are the worst affected by rising emissions from the industrialized world and must be compensated.
Addressing the COP27 climate change conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt today, President Wickremesinghe said that the unbridled industrialization of the developed countries is the root cause of the climate change, leaving the door for the poor countries to suffer the consequences. President Ranil Wickremesinghe is attending the summit, which is scheduled to last for 2 weeks. This year, the summit will be focusing on 4 areas of climate crisis: mitigation, adaptation, finance and collaboration. The theme of the summit, Together for Implementation. The President Wickremesinghe, addressing the summit, said that the problems facing the poor countries are augmented due to the absence of adequate funding. As a result, these countries are facing double jeopardy, struggling to develop economically while fighting to protect the living standard of the population.
The UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement must be pursued. The lack of capacity is the biggest obstacle to the implementation of climate action plans. Therefore, capacity building is vital in this regard. To overcome this obstacle, we propose to establish an international climate change university in Sri Lanka with an ancillary institute in Maldives that will be the first of its type. This seat of learning can be a transdisciplinary global center for green and blue studies for scientists, environmentalists, researchers, policymakers, development practitioners, and of course students the world over to interchange knowledge transcending national and disciplinary boundaries. The envisaged Climate Change University will offer both short-term courses and postgraduate academic awards to build capabilities on the mitigating and adapting to climate change. The university will also expedite the skills of the new generations to deliver the political, economic, social, cultural and digital transformation required to prevent a 1.5 centigrade world. It would be the vehicle to enlighten climate change challenges and prospects domestically. The collaboration of multilateral institutions and organizations such as the Commonwealth, World Bank and the ADB, amongst others, will be sought for the establishment for the Institute of Higher Learning, making it a multi-stakeholder partnership transcending national boundaries. It's my hope that Sri Lanka's proposal will receive extensive support and endorsement from the international community. However, the checkered implementation of previous decisions, including those of COP26, is extremely disheartening. Regrettably, the ground reality is that the fossil fuel-based industrialized countries of G7 and G20, who have been the main promoters of green hydrogen, are now backtracking to use fossil fuel. In the last year, carbon dioxide emissions increased by 2 billion metric tons from 3.3 billion to 36.3 billion metric tons. Such double standards are unacceptable. Developed nations should be giving leadership to overcome climate challenges rather than abdicating their responsibilities. It is no secret that climate financing has missed the target. It's ironic that the $100 billion pledged annually have not been available in the coffers to finance climate challenges.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe met Na Kyung-won, Special Presidential Envoy for Climate and Environment, and the head of the Korean delegation on the sidelines of the COP27 in Egypt yesterday. While appreciating the efforts taken by Sri Lanka to address the challenges of climate change, she also commended Sri Lanka for taking measures to reduce carbon emissions despite the country already having a low carbon emission rate. Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, informed the President that the World Trade Organization would pay close attention to the situation in Sri Lanka and hopes to assist the country in economic recovery. At a meeting hosted by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, President Wickremesinghe called for a meeting of South Asian nations to discuss losses and damages caused by the melting of glaciers in the Himalayas. World leaders call for urgent action, citing the nature of lashing out and citizens losing patience.
Most critical talks will likely focus on the soaring costs of limiting and adapting global warming, especially in the world's most vulnerable countries. Heads of state, ministers and negotiators, along with climate activists, civil society and private sector representatives are meeting in the Egyptian coastal city of Sharm el-Sheikh for the largest annual gathering on climate action. The 27th conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change COP27 builds on the outcomes of COP26 to deliver action on an array of issues critical to tackling the climate emergency. Last year's COP26 in Glasgow delivered a global climate deal and lots of promises, including on coal use, deforestation, methane and climate finance. Various climate activists have termed the previous climate summit as a missed opportunity by many countries. The Glasgow conference drew collective promises by governments to face down coal use, curb deforestation, advance remedial payments to developing countries hit hardest by floods, heat waves and droughts, and to present more ambitious emissions reduction targets. Delegates at the climate summit in Egypt are expected to focus on financing issues tomorrow. A report released ahead of talks on climate change finance at the COP27 summit in Egypt said developing countries need to work with investors, rich countries and development banks to secure $1 trillion a year in external financing for climate action by the end of the decade. The report has further indicated that the funding is required to cut emissions, boost resilience, deal with damage from climate change and restore nature and land. In 2009, industrialized countries pledged to develop $1 billion climate by 2020. The 2020 was met which favor their process, indicated that limit to reach that the emerging economies will need at least $1 trillion a year to eliminate or offset their carbon emissions. Chief of Staff of the President, Sagala Ratnayake says the President's vision for the country exceeds international stipulations.
He made these remarks while speaking at the World Bank Budget Support and Development Policy Operations Preparatory Mission Kick-Off meeting between the government officials and the members of the World Bank. State Minister Shehan Singh said that the President Ranil Wickremesinghe is committed to ensure the stabilization of the country's economy, and the President has taken very difficult decisions to revive the economy. World Bank Country Director for Maldives, Nepal and Sri Lanka, Faris Haddad Zeroz, was amazed with the action policy and the vision of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, which was revealed during their meeting recently. They discussed development policy operations which provide direct budget support to the governments for policy and institutional reforms is aimed at achieving a set of specific development results. These operations have been designed under three pillars such as transforming the economic governance, enhancing growth and competitiveness, and protecting the poor and the vulnerable to provide rapid financial assistance to allow Sri Lanka to deal with the actual or anticipated development of their financing requirements. Lengthy discussions were held with the World Bank team on the areas of improved debt management, transparency, improved fiscal oversight, improved tax administration policy, increased procurement of transparency and value for money, the sovereign financial sector nexus, and improving the stewardship of the finance sector and reducing systematic risk.
Minister Ranjit says the largest provision in the upcoming budget will be allocated for public welfare. He made these remarks as a response to the parliamentary debate on the present economic situation in the country. The debate was commenced by parliamentarian Anura Kumar Disanayake. MP Andrew Disanayake said that the UNICEF has indicated 5.8 million in the country, expecting humanitarian assistance for their survival. He pointed out that the economy and the production of the country have completely collapsed. He pointed out that the food inflation is at 95% at present, while the overall inflation is at 66%. Minister Ranjit said that there are no easy solutions for the prevailing challenges. He said that the government is expected to provide welfare assistance for the affected families in the country. Also, he said that realizing the present situation, the government has allocated the largest provision in the budget for social welfare. The National Child Protection Authority has initiated a probe into an incident where a group of police officers had allegedly assaulted students of the Gungamo Junior School in Millenia.
Accordingly, statements were recorded from several parties related to the incident today. A group of grade 5 students in the school had been allegedly assaulted. Accordingly, the parents of the students then lodged a complaint with the National Child Protection Authority regarding the incident. The authority has initiated the probe accordingly and summoned 2 teachers and 3 police officers to the institution today.
කිසිදු පාසලක ගුරුවරයෙකුට හෝ වෙනත් බලධාරියෙකුට විදුහල්පතිවරයෙකුට හෝ අධ්‍යාපන බලධාරියෙකුට දරුවෙකුට ඔහු සිදු කරන ලබන විනය විරෝධී ක්‍රියාවක් හෝ කවර හෝ ආකාරයක ක්‍රියාවක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් කායික දඬුවම් ලබා දීමට අවකාශයක් නීතිමය ප්‍රතිපාදනයක් නැහැ. මේ ආකාරයෙන් කායික දඬුවම් පැමිණීම හෝ දරුවන්ට වද හිංසා පැමිණීම මූලික අයිතිවාසිකම් උල්ලංඝනය කිරීමේ චෝදනා ලද හැකි වරදක් බවට අදාළ චක්‍ර ලේඛයේ මගින් ඉතා පැහැදිලිව දක්වලා තිබෙනවා.
ළමයිට පහර දීම නෙවෙයි කොහොමද ළමයි සම්බන්ධ විනය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කියන කාරණා පැහැදිලිව තියෙනවා. දෙයිම තියේදී තමයි මේ ආකාරයෙන් කටයුතු වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මේව තුළ වෙන්නේ සමාජය තුළ පාසල් පද්ධතියට එරෙහිව මතයක් නිර්මාණය වීම. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම මේ පාසල් ළමුන් පොලිසියට යොමු කිරීම පිළිබඳව අපි වෘත්තීය සමිතියක් යට දැඩි විරෝධය පළ කරනවා. ඒක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වැරදි. ඒ වගේම අපි ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් බස්නාහිර පළාත් අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශය විධිමත් පරීක්ෂණයක් කළ යුතුයි කියන කාරණාව.
පළමුවම අපි ලංකා ගුරු සේවා සංගමයේ ලෙස ගුරුවරුන් විසින් හෝ විදුහල්පතිවරුන් විසින් හෝ මේ පොලිසිය විසින් හෝ මේ දරුවන්ට සිදු කරන ලබන දඬුවම් කිරීම දැඩි පිළිකුලෙන් යුතුව හෙලා දකිනවා. ලංකා ගුරු සේවා සංගමයේ අපි කිසිසේත්ම එවැනි දඬුවම් කිරීම අනුමත කරන්නේ නැහැ.
Meanwhile, Minister Susil Premajayant informed the Parliament that steps have been taken to conduct a separate independent investigation regarding the incident. Sri Lankan Army research says search operations are underway to detect 26 inmates who had fled following the tense situation that occurred at Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre.
201 inmates who were taken into custody yesterday have been remanded after producing them before the Polonnaruwa magistrate. Close to 300 inmates fled from the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre on the 6th of this month following a tense situation occurred between 2 groups. Sri Lanka Army spokesman Brigadier Ravi Herath mentioned that most of the inmates have been taken into custody while several other inmates have surrendered to the authorities. He also said that 284 inmates who were temporarily transferred to Velikanga Senapura Rehabilitation Camp yesterday have returned to the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Centre. Search operations and other necessary measures to detect the fled inmates are still underway. Commissioner General for Rehabilitation, retired Major General Darshan Hettiarachchi, pointed out the difficulties pertaining to control and manage inmates who are heavily addicted to drug use. He further said that the behavior of drug-addicted inmates is unpredictable, which contributes to the difficulties in managing such persons. The Rehabilitation Commissioner General also said that investigations should be carried out out to identify the influence of various traffickers in rehabilitation centres and their involvement in creating such disruptive situations.
Ministry of Foreign Affairs is in the process of taking measures to repatriate more than 300 Sri Lankans who have been rescued in the Vietnamese waters. The ministry has indicated that official diplomatic communications with the Vietnamese authorities in this regard have commenced. Foreign reports have indicated that more than 300 Sri Lankans were rescued by Japanese ship at sea off the Spratly Islands yesterday. Accordingly, reports have further indicated that Japanese-flagged Helios leader was requested to make a detour and rescue people aboard the Lady R3, a Myanmar-registered ship. The Myanmar flagship with 303 Sri Lankans is suspected to be headed for Canada. The group of Sri Lankans transported to Vietnam has been handed over to the International Organization for Migration. Minister Ali Sabri said the relevant measures have been taken in diplomatic level to repatriate the Sri Lankans.
The Department of Immigration and Emigration temporarily suspended the issuing of passports today. The department said that the issuance of passports was halted due to a breakdown in the system. Accordingly, the department said the issuing of passports has been suspended at its main office in Batramulla and all regional offices island-wide following the system breakdown. Following the temporary suspension on the issuing of passports, a tense situation erupted at the main office in Batramulla this evening. The situation was eased with the mediation of the officials of the Department of Immigration and Emigration and the police.
His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit condemns the repressive actions of the government in arresting social leaders in the public engaged in peaceful protests. Director of the National Catholic Media Mass, Cyril Gamini Fernando, made these remarks while delivering a statement of His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit. His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit said that the unjust arrests and keeping under detention orders of the Inter-University Students' Federation convener Vasantha Mudalage and the Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation Venerable Galvava Sri Thera is unacceptable. His Eminence Cardinal Ranjit has indicated that he is hopeful that the United Nations Human Rights Commission will take the due notice of this and take steps to get those responsible to follow internationally accepted norms and procedures in order to ensure a true sense of freedom and justice in the country. A commemorative to mark the 7th death anniversary of the late Venerable Malviya Thera was held at the Kotte Sri Nagavihara premises today.
It was held with the participation of Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. The commemoration was held in a simple ceremony remembering the services rendered by the late Thera towards a greater just society. Venerable Mangala Dharmakirti Sri Malvane Panyasara Thera of the Sri Kalyani Samagri Dharmas Maha Sangha Sabha of Shyamopali sect, Venerable Murattettue Ananda Thera, Venerable L.A. Gunavansha Thera and Maha Sangha were present at the occasion.
උන්වහන්සේ රටට යම් අභියෝගදායක අවස්ථාවක් එළඹුණා නම් රාජ්‍ය මැදුරු පසුපසවත් මාලිගා පසුපසවත් ගමන් කළේ නැහැ. උන්වහන්සේ වැස්සේ පාරට උන්වහන්සේ කටයුතු කළේ මහජනතාවත් එක්ක මේ එකට එක් වෙලා ඒ සිද්ධ කළ ජාතික ආගමික සමාජික මහා ක්‍රියාවලිය මොන තරම් වටින විදියට නායක හාමුදුරුවොත් එක්ක කටයුතු කළාද කියන එක.
මහා සංඝ පේතෘවරයෙක් හැටියට බුදු සසුන බැබලවීමට අප රට තුළ පමණක් නොව ජනතාව තුළ හා දේශාන්තර හරහා
Several welfare programs were also organized in parallel to the commemoration. Meanwhile, the Maduluwave Homagama main road has been named after late Venerable Maduluwave Sobhita Thera. Also, Maduluwave Mahavidyalaya has also been renamed as Sobhita Himi Mahavidyalaya.
Asian Media and Cultural Association says that Sri Lanka is the first travel destination to visit despite the economic situation in the country while considering the global conditions. A delegation of media personnel from India and Nepal expressed high appreciation to the Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena for the steps taken by the government to face the economic challenges and to ensure a quick recovery in a short span of time. The delegation made these remarks when they met the Prime Minister at the Prime Minister's office in Colombo recently. Prime Minister Gunawardena thanked India for extending material and financial restructuring facilities to Sri Lanka in an urgent basis to get over the economic crisis and shortages of essential items. They said that the first task would be to remove the misinformation about Sri Lanka through media and advise Indians to make Sri Lanka their next tourist destination. Accordingly, they have published various news and feature segments in leading media outlets promoting Sri Lankan tourism and inviting tourists to visit the country without any hesitation.
Vegetable farmers have requested to extend the same compensation as agreed for paddy farmers for their lost harvest due to the failure in providing fertilizer subsidy from the upcoming budget. These remarks were shared during the Agrarian National Summit, which was held today. The summit was held in Valimada town. The aim of this summit was to resolve the issues pertaining to vegetable farmers island-wide under one organization.
Minister Harin Fernando says that measures have been taken to increase the number of annual tourist arrivals to Sri Lanka up to 3 million by 2024. The minister, taking part in a global tourism vision exhibition in England, said that the new measures will come into effect from the next month onwards. Minister Harin Fernando said that their target to include the country among the top 5 destinations in the world by 2023. He pointed out that Sri Lanka is at the positive position among the rest of the world despite the prevailing concerns. The minister said that new measures will come into effect in December. He said that the president expects to increase the spending limit of tourists up to $450 to $600 from the present $150. He further said that the government will increase the annual tourist arrivals to 1.5 million by 2023 and 3 million by 2024. The Colombo High Court ordered police to conduct a probe into alleged threats on witnesses of an incident related to a media briefing on white vans which became controversial during the last presidential election period.
The relevant order has indicated that the witness should be provided with adequate security until the conclusion of the consideration of the case. The relevant case has been filed against 2 defendants, including former Minister Ranjit Senaratna. The witnesses of the case are Sarath Kumara and Atula Sanjeeva, who took part in the controversial media briefing. The court issued the relevant order based on the request made by the witness during the hearing today. The case over the alleged abduction of an official attached to Swiss Embassy in Colombo was taken up for hearing today. Written submissions were presented to the court on behalf of the defendant, and the judge provided 3 weeks for the Attorney General to respond for the submissions. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court granted permission to consider the petition filed by Yasuru Kandambi, requesting the court to order an issue citing that the fundamental rights of the petitioner were violated when he was taken into remand custody, while alleging that he had accessed illegally into the official website of the Presidential Secretariat. The consideration of the petition will be on the 15th of May.
116 persons have succumbed this year from elephant-human conflicts so far. 352 wild elephants have also been killed from the conflict. The attention of the Parliament was directed on this issue today. MP Mayantha Dissanayake said that the elephant-human conflict has become a serious issue concerning the general public. Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that discussions were held with wildlife officials regarding the issue. He said that officials claim that wild elephants continue to break the erected fences amidst various efforts that have been taken to mitigate the issue. He further said that the ministry will prepare recommendations based on the instructions of both local and foreign experts.
Police Narcotics Bureau has arrested 3 suspects with a cache of 9 kilograms of heroin in Beruala and Tangol. The relevant raids were carried out by Mathara and Galle subdivision officers of the Bureau. The suspect, who was taken into custody in Tangol with 544 grams of heroin, was produced before the Tangol magistrate. The magistrate court ordered to detain the suspect for 7 days for inquiries. The suspect was taken into custody on the 6th and is a resident of Nakulugamu area. Following the interrogations, the Galle subdivision officers inspected a house in Beruala, Ambepitia yesterday based on the information received from the suspect. During the raid, the officials were able to arrest another suspect along with 8 kilograms and 304 grams of heroin. The suspect was produced before Kalathura magistrate and obtained a 7-day detention order for further inquiries. Other Kotipati lottery is one of the most attractive lotteries issued by the Development Lotteries Board.
A decision has been taken by the Development Lotteries Board to create a new winners for the year 2023 in a special draw. Accordingly, other Vishesha Kotipati lottery was issued to the market today. The public will gain opportunity to win on not only 50 million rupee jackpot and other prizes, but also an additional 100,000 and 10,000 rupee cash prizes as well. The event to issue a special lottery to the market was held with the participation of the chairman of the Development Lotteries Board, Ajit Naragala. The draw will be held on November 29th.
Now let's take a look at several local news items in brief. State Minister Ranjit has been appointed as the Acting Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies. The appointment has come to effect from the 5th of this month. The relevant appointment was made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. A mahout attached to the Pinnavala Elephant Sanctuary has died today after getting hit by Gamunu Kandula tusker. The mahout has succumbed from his injuries following admission to the Kegol Hospital. The deceased has been working at the sanctuary for nearly 2 years.
Prima Kottumi Hot and Spicy Cricket, KTM Delivery, Sashi Packet Ilakam, Iran Motor Nankamotuka SMS Ingai, Tinam Torum Iranilachuk Ayudayum Dubai Pada Persikai, Nilum Panadigana Persikai, November Mokudavari Matame.
Prima Kottumi, Fantamai.
In foreign news tonight, the first polls have opened in the United States midterm elections, which will determine the makeup of the next Congress and set the tone for the remainder of President Joe Biden's term in the White House.
The vote comes as Americans grapple with sky-high inflations and living costs. The economy has emerged as the top concern among the supporters of both the Democratic and Republican parties. Democrats are currently retain the slim majority in Congress, and they have focused much of their campaign on defending the reproductive rights and strengthening the democratic institution, which they argue is under a threat in the country. But as the party in power, Democrats are expected to lose ground to the Republicans, who have seized on immigration and economic issues in a bid to garner support in the ballot box. All 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives are up for grabs, along with 34 in the Senate. Governorships, state legislature, local councils and school boards are also being contested.
Prima Stella Set Yogurt.
Welcome back, and in your sports news tonight, a special discussion on cricketer Dhanush Gaganatillaka, who is in remand custody in Australia, was held this morning. The meeting was presided over by Minister Roshan Ranasinghe.
Chairman of the Sports Council, Honorable Rantunga, Secretary to the Ministry of Sports, Dr. Amal Hashi Silva, and officials of the Sri Lanka cricket were present at the occasion. Minister Roshan Ranasinghe said that all Sri Lankans have been affected due to this incident. Accordingly, a decision has been reached to appoint a 3-member committee to probe into the incident. The relevant committee will comprise of retired High Court Judge Sisira Ratnaika, Attorney at Law Niroshan Pereira and Asel Rekava. Meanwhile, Captain Dasun Shanaka, head coach Chris Silverwood and manager Mahinda Halalgoda of the Sri Lanka team were also summoned to the Ministry of Sports this evening.
12 days more for the FIFA World Cup. The national television is the official broadcaster of the World Football Championship, which will commence from the 20th.
This will be the first World Cup ever to be held in the Arab world and the second World Cup held entirely in Asia after the 2002 tournament in South Korea and Japan. Albert Stadium, among the 8th stadium to play the World Championship, will host the opening match of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022, along with numerous other games including one semi-final. The stadium takes its name from Bad al-Shara, which is the historical tents used by the nomadic people in Qatar and the Gulf region. The design honors the Qatar's past and present while keeping one eye on the future of the community.
Prima Stella Set Yogurt.
And with that, we conclude tonight's English news on Rupavahini. We'll see you tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.